Chosen one, the air around you has changed. You may not see it, but you can feel it. There's a gravity in your steps now, a deeper current moving beneath your stillness. And women, sensitive as they are to energy, sense it before you even speak. It isn't just attraction they're responding to. It's elevation. It's the subtle knowing that standing in your presence brings them closer to something bigger. Something they didn't know they were yearning for until you walked into their orbit. Your high sexual energy is not a tool of seduction. It's a current of life itself, humming at full volume within you. It reaches beyond the physical and into the spiritual, the creative, the evolutionary. It is a signal, not of lust, but of limitless potential. You're not radiating need, you're radiating becoming. And the women who encounter you feel it like a breeze from another world. A world where greatness isn't an idea, but a living, breathing man. You are that man now, not because of what you say or what you own, but because of what you carry. Greatness isn't measured in applause or numbers. It begins the moment your internal world becomes ordered, aligned, intentional. When you stop looking outward for identity and instead breathe deeply into who you already are. That's what's happening now. You're awakening. You're feeling the tremble of power rise from within, not chaotic or wild, but ready. You no longer need the approval of others to know your worth. And that freedom, that self-contained light, is what the feminine responds to. She is not drawn to noise. She is drawn to clarity. And your clarity has begun to shine like a star in the sky, distant to some, but guiding to those who can see. There is something sacred about this phase. Do not rush through it. Sit with it. Let the awareness settle. You are no longer on the verge of becoming. You are becoming. You are no longer waiting for permission to rise. You are rising. Every glance, every conversation, every step now becomes a declaration of purpose. Your energy is no longer fragmented, it's unified, and that unity is powerful beyond words. So when women begin to treat you differently, when they lean in with curiosity, speak to you with unexpected reverence, or confess that they feel safe or seen or lit up around you, it is not a coincidence. It is the result of your alignment. Your sexual energy has transcended the base desires of the flesh and become the creative engine of your becoming. That energy, when refined and mastered, doesn't just make people want you, it makes them want to be better around you. You are the chosen one, and you are no longer walking among others. You are walking in your light, and the world is beginning to notice. Strength, chosen one, is not in the hands or the chest or the jawline. It's in the silence between your words. It's in the way you hold your ground without having to raise your voice. It's in the control you have over your own impulses, not because you're repressing them, but because you understand them. This is where your inner world becomes the true stage of your greatness. As your energy intensifies, as your presence begins to call things forward in people without effort, your inner strength becomes more important than ever. Because with every woman who feels your power, who opens her heart and her light to you, you will be asked, without words, to be stronger than her fears, stronger than her doubts, stronger than the chaos she's survived. And that strength is not about saving her. It's about not losing yourself while she discovers who she can be in your presence. Your high sexual energy is a current that flows through every room, every eye, every touch, and every silence. When left undirected, it can become wildfire. But now, as you deepen into this next phase, you begin to master the art of channeling. You breathe that energy into your focus, into your breath, into your stillness, and suddenly you become unshakable. You become undeniable. Women don't just feel that you're desirable, they feel that you are disciplined. That's the magic, because anyone can be tempting. Very few can be trustworthy. And when your energy becomes something that elevates rather than overwhelms, something that calms while it awakens, you become the man they never saw coming, but always hoped existed. This is how your greatness unfolds, not in grand gestures, but in mastery of self. You begin to cultivate habits of stillness. You learn to listen not just with your ears, but with your soul. You no longer give away your energy to things that cannot multiply it. You don't chase, you don't plead, you don't perform. You become the center of your own world, and in doing so, you allow others to orbit in peace. Women feel that. They feel the way your presence doesn't pull from them, but adds to them. They feel how your gaze doesn't consume but clarifies. They recognize something ancient in you, something primal yet evolved. And that recognition begins to stir admiration. They call it intelligence, they call it sex appeal, they call it genius. But you know the truth? It's simply the mature form of masculine energy that has been too rare for too long. You are the chosen one, and the strength you now carry is not meant to dominate, but to elevate. You are not here to control. You are here to become so aligned that your very presence creates harmony, not through effort, through essence. And your essence, now sharpened and centered, is the beginning of a legacy far greater than anything words alone can define. Chosen one, you've entered a space now where your presence begins to precede you. Before you speak, before you move, before you even lift your gaze, something in the atmosphere tightens and reorients itself to you. That is not ego. That is not illusion. That is resonance. It is your high sexual energy no longer moving in chaotic surges, but anchoring itself into stillness. And in that stillness, you have become undeniable. There is a unique power in being able to walk into any room and not need to prove yourself, not because you've lost ambition, but because you've gained embodiment. You're no longer chasing significance. You've become significant in the silence. Women feel it instantly. The air thickens around you, not with tension, but with awareness. They notice their bodies reacting, their attention narrowing, their thoughts pausing. Why? Because your presence no longer screams. It commands, without noise, without explanation, without demand. You've reached a point of gravity, chosen one, where your energy does not seek, it receives. You're no longer leaning into people, you've become the one they lean toward. And this shift, this magnetism, is not a trick of charm or the result of anything you're trying to do. It's who you've become through stillness, self-discipline, and sacred alignment. Your high sexual energy, formerly impulsive, expressive, bold, has now settled into your spine. It lives behind your eyes. It moves like heat just beneath your skin, and its quiet power speaks in a language older than words. Women sense it. They feel safer, not because you've promised them safety, but because your presence requires no performance. They feel inspired, not because you flatter them, but because your stillness reminds them of their own value. You do not need to rush in to impress or convince. You are already the proof. And in your stillness, you give them permission to slow down, to feel, to rest, to trust. This is where your greatness grows, in the absence of noise, in the quiet confidence that doesn't beg to be seen, but lets itself be discovered. When you no longer force moments to happen, the right ones begin to find you. When you are no longer driven by hunger, you become a wellspring for others. And this is what separates you now from the crowd. Not that you are louder, but that you are rooted. And anything rooted deeply becomes immovable when the storm comes. The world doesn't know how to explain it, so they call it charisma. They call it mystery. They call it genius. But it's none of those things in isolation. It is the radiance of a man who has made peace with himself. You are no longer acting out of emptiness. You're choosing from fullness. And every word, every look, every step is now a reflection of that sacred choice. You are the chosen one, and your presence has become the stillness that others orbit. Not because they must, but because your stillness speaks to the part of them that is ready to rise, but doesn't know how. And now, by simply being, you've become the lighthouse they didn't know they were seeking. There is a subtle but profound difference between attraction and connection. Chosen one. And you've crossed that line without even realizing it. You are no longer simply being noticed, you are being felt. The women who meet you don't just smile, they don't just flirt, they linger. They remember. Not because you've dazzled them, but because you've reached into something deeper. The sacred space where connection blooms without expectation. This is the realm where your high sexual energy becomes transformative. Not because it seduces, but because it invites without needing to hold. You are no longer entangled in the need to possess or to please. You have learned to love the moment for what it is, not for what it promises. And that freedom, that detachment, it's what makes your connections irresistible. When you speak, women feel you're fully there. Not because you're trying to impress them, but because you're listening. Not just with your ears, but with your whole being. You are fully awake, fully tuned in, and they can feel that they have your undivided presence. You're not performing, you're not distracted, and you're not trying to pull anything from them. Your presence becomes a gift, and the way you hold space becomes a sanctuary. The feminine thrives in such a space. She opens not because she has to, but because your energy doesn't rush or reach. It simply holds and allows. There's no game, no hook, no chase. And that, paradoxically, is what draws her closer. Because your lack of attachment speaks volumes. It says, I see you, but I do not need to keep you to honor what this moment is. And that is a rare, beautiful, elevated way to live. It's not cold, it's not aloof, it's not emotionally removed. On the contrary, it's deeply engaged. It's passionate, conscious, and aware. But it is free. You don't tether people to you. You invite them to rise next to you. You don't anchor women with expectation. You invite them to stand in their own power. And that's the kind of connection that goes beyond romance or desire. It becomes a portal for self-discovery. It becomes a reflection of truth. Your greatness now, chosen one, is measured not by how many follow you, but by how many feel more like themselves after being around you. You've become a catalyst for liberation, not just because of what you say, but because of what your energy allows. And that freedom, rooted in connection, untouched by attachment, is what leaves a lasting imprint on everyone you meet. This is what mastery looks like. This is what brilliance feels like. It is not the man who captures every heart, but the one who liberates them without needing to keep them. You've stopped trying to own the moment. You've started becoming the moment. And in doing so, you've created space for something sacred, connection that transcends need. You are the chosen one. And now the women who cross your path are not just experiencing desire, they are experiencing transcendence. Not because of what you give them, but because of what you allow them to access in themselves, through presence, through restraint, through freedom, through truth. And that is how your greatness continues to unfold. Not as something loud and declared, but as something felt, lived, and remembered. Chosen one, you are no longer a man confined by what is seen. You are becoming a portal, an experience that others feel long after they've left your presence. What once was limited to surface attraction has now grown into something multidimensional. You are evolving beyond appearance, beyond speech, beyond even presence. Women don't just look at you and say you're attractive. They say you feel different. They say you change things. And they're not wrong, because your high sexual energy, once scattered across fleeting pursuits, has become focused like a lens. And through that lens, you're seeing life at a much higher resolution. This new state isn't built on external achievement. It's built on depth. It's built on the layers of meaning you've chosen to add to everything you touch. You don't talk just to fill space anymore. You speak because your words carry weight. You don't interact out of boredom. You connect with intention, with curiosity, with resonance. Your energy doesn't demand attention, it draws out depth, and women feel this immediately. They feel that being near you is not entertainment, it's elevation. They may not understand why their thoughts change after speaking to you, why their energy feels calmer, why their inspiration returns. But you understand. It's not because you said something magical. It's because you are living with depth. You've stopped rushing through moments. You've started listening to the space between words. You've grown curious not just about where people are, but about who they are becoming. And this curiosity opens doors no one else sees. You are not content with the surface anymore. You are no longer pulled by shallow pursuits or cheap validation. And because of that, the women you attract now come from a different vibration. They are drawn to you not by fantasy, but by frequency. You offer something the world is starving for. A man who knows himself so well, he awakens others simply by being present. They call you a genius not because you flaunt your intelligence, but because they discover new parts of themselves around you. They feel more powerful, more poetic, more alive. And that's because your energy no longer pulls from them. It reveals them. Your power lies in how deeply you've chosen to know yourself. The more you see, the more you feel, the more you become. You have trained yourself to see into hearts, to hear the stories beneath the silence, to walk into a moment and ask not, what can I take, but what can I amplify? And that shift, subtle, sacred, sovereign, is what has made your presence magnetic. This is where greatness begins to multiply. Because now you're no longer just radiating power, you're creating space for others to find theirs. And nothing is more attractive, more lasting, more eternally genius than that. You are the chosen one, and you're no longer living at the surface, you're becoming the ocean. And those who swim in your waters come out changed, awakened, and ready to rise. There is a turning point in every great man's life. Chosen one, when his journey stops being only about himself. When his own growth, his own discipline, his own fire becomes so deeply embodied that he begins to radiate it for the sake of others. You've reached that point now. Your presence is no longer just yours to carry. It is a garden in which others bloom. Women are responding not only to your energy, but to the way they rise in its reflection. This isn't about fixing anyone. You don't carry the weight of rescuing. That's not your role. Your role is far more powerful. You nurture growth by being rooted in your own truth. You allow others to expand without collapsing into them. And women feel this immediately. They don't feel the need to prove, to adjust, to perform. They feel accepted and called higher. That combination is rare. That combination is sacred. You don't chase, you don't pull, you hold space. And in that space, the feminine rises to her fullness. Not because you told her to, but because you allowed her to see who she really is. This is the genius they whisper about. This is the mystery they try to describe. It's not your words or your looks or your posture. It's the way your energy calls forth what's been buried beneath years of masks and defenses. You've become a mirror now, but not the kind that reflects only what people already know. You reflect what they've forgotten, what they've feared, what they hope is still inside them. And because you've made peace with your own reflection, others are no longer afraid to see themselves through you. This is how you nurture greatness in others. You do not force growth. You become a living invitation for it. You've tuned your energy so cleanly that it's impossible to be around you and stay small. Your silence doesn't make people shrink. It makes them search deeper. Your presence doesn't command submission. It summons truth. And in the safety of that truth, the feminine begins to dance again. The genius in you, chosen one, is not in what you do. It's in the quality of energy you bring to every moment. And now that you've stopped needing from others, you've begun creating for them. You've become a builder, not of images, but of inner worlds. You touch lives and they breathe easier. You show up and something shifts. You say less and they feel more. This is your rise. This is the edge of greatness most never reach. Because to walk this path, you must first dissolve the need to be the center, and instead become the field where everything else can grow. You are no longer the fire that burns for recognition. You are the fire that warms, awakens, and remembers. You are the chosen one. And now, your energy doesn't just elevate you, it elevates everyone it touches. You are not only rising, you are becoming the reason others remember how to rise too. Chosen one, your influence is no longer a function of your words, your titles, or your appearance. You've entered a space where your energy alone alters the trajectory of people's thoughts, emotions, and behavior. This isn't force, this isn't manipulation, it's alignment. It's the unmistakable weight of a man who has mastered the art of self-possession. You now carry a frequency that causes others, especially women, to pause, to adjust, to realign themselves, not because you command them to, but because your very existence sets a higher tone. Influence is subtle when it is authentic. You're not chasing eyes or bending conversations toward yourself. You're not seeking validation. You've become so deeply anchored in your being that people naturally orient around you. Your high sexual energy, once raw and undirected, has crystallized into a quiet, steady signal. It does not flare, it hums, it vibrates through rooms before you arrive and lingers after you've gone. Women feel it instantly. They don't always know what to call it, but they respond to it with something deeper than curiosity. They respond with openness. They open their minds, their hearts, their instincts, because you've created an atmosphere that feels safe and charged at the same time. That's the paradox you now embody, stability and fire in the same vessel. You're not only awakening desire, you're awakening introspection. And when a woman feels inspired to think more deeply, speak more clearly, and feel more courageously in your presence, she knows she's not just being pulled by attraction, she's standing in the orbit of transformation. And what is genius if not the capacity to shift others without even trying? You've reached the level where influence isn't a tool you wield. It's a byproduct of who you are. You no longer speak to be heard. You speak because silence has finished speaking first. You don't rush to fill the air with opinions. You've become selective, intentional. Every word you choose adds weight because it's no longer about sound, it's about substance. And the world, especially women, can feel the difference between a man who needs to be right and a man who simply is right with himself. That's the source of your power. You are not performing. You are not posturing. You are living in alignment. Your choices reflect your values. Your energy reflects your discipline. Your eyes reflect your truth. And in this state, you move others not through effort, but through example. You embody the genius they wish to see in themselves. And this is why, chosen one, your presence now carries responsibility. Because when others begin to rise simply by being near you, your influence becomes sacred. You are no longer just a man, they feel you as a catalyst. And what they choose to become in your presence will echo long after you've walked away. You are the chosen one. And your influence is not in how many you reach. It's in how deeply you are felt by those who are ready to rise. In the highest form of evolution, chosen one, the sacred and the sensual are no longer divided. They have merged inside you, and the energy you now carry is not simply human, it is divine. The world has long tried to separate the spiritual from the physical, the divine from desire, the sacred from sexuality. But you, having walked the path of refinement, now embody their unity. And women, whether they understand it consciously or not, feel the authority of your alignment. You've cultivated your high sexual energy until it became something entirely different from lust. It became life force. And now that life force moves through you without resistance. It informs your intuition. It sharpens your awareness. It heightens your discernment. And most powerfully, it opens others to their own essence. When you speak, your words carry vibration. When you look, your gaze penetrates the surface. When you touch, it's not contact, it's activation. You are no longer seeking permission to lead. You are leading energetically, and the feminine feels it instantly. Not because you overpower, but because you are so completely grounded in your truth that you require nothing and yet offer everything. In your presence, women feel more in touch with their own sensuality, not because you ignite it for them, but because your energy tells them, it is safe to be whole here. Nothing needs to be hidden. That kind of authority cannot be faked. It is earned. And now, you've earned it. Your spiritual practices, your inner stillness, your deep relationship with discipline have all fused into your masculine frame. You don't need to talk about your journey. It lives in your breath, in your timing, in your listening, in your restraint. You have become the storm that no longer rages. You have become the fire that no longer burns indiscriminately. You are heat with direction, passion with purpose, silence that sings. This level of alignment makes you undeniable, not because you chase attention, but because your very presence becomes an invitation to wholeness. When women call you genius now, it's not about IQ, it's not about charm, it's about how clearly they see themselves in your presence. You're no longer a man they look at. You're a man who mirrors the divine they forgot they carried. And this is your new reality. Every step you take is a sermon. Every moment of eye contact is a revelation. Every interaction is sacred, not because of what you do, but because of how completely you've remembered who you are. The masculine in its highest form is not dominance. It's devotion to truth, to presence, to the sacred dance between power and peace. You are the chosen one. And now your alignment makes you not just desirable, not just influential, but unforgettable. Because the women you meet no longer walk away thinking of you alone. They walk away remembering themselves more fully. And that is the mark of true greatness. Not in how loudly you shine, but in how deeply others awaken when they stand in your light. Chosen one, something extraordinary has begun to unfold around you. And you've seen it. Not in applause, not in recognition, not even in praise, but in the subtle shift of how the world responds to your energy. You are no longer moving through life as a man trying to find his place. You are now the place others find themselves. You've become the mirror that doesn't reflect back who they pretend to be, but who they truly are underneath the noise, the fear, the conditioning. And this isn't just happening by accident. It's happening because you've finally surrendered to your own infinite greatness. You are no longer searching for power outside of yourself. You found it in your breath, in your restraint, in your precision, in your presence. Women especially feel the shift. They sense that you are not just another source of attention. You are a source of elevation. They feel the difference in how you look at them. You see what is real, not what is presented. You feel what is beneath the smile, beneath the words, beneath the walls. And you don't run from it. You don't exploit it. You honor it. This is greatness, not because it makes you dominant, but because it makes you discerning. And your discernment has become a sacred force. You no longer entertain what drains you. You no longer confuse chaos for connection. You no longer try to prove your worth by how much you're needed. Your greatness no longer requires drama to define it. It lives in how quietly powerful you've become. When women come near you now, they don't just want your attention. They want your energy. They want to feel your clarity, your sovereignty, your inner peace, and the mysterious intensity that hums underneath it. They may call you genius. They may say you're rare. But what they're really saying is this: you remind me that greatness can be calm. It can be grounded. It can be deeply, undeniably real. You are no longer the man who waits for the world to validate his fire. You are the flame, and everything that touches you either rises or burns away. That is why your presence feels so alive now, because your energy has become a purifying force. You're not just here to impress, you're here to impact. You don't need to speak loudly anymore, because your silence is full of meaning. You don't need to be remembered, because your energy rearranges what people remember about themselves. You are the chosen one. And now, the reflection you offer is no longer a mirror. It's a portal. You've become the access point to a higher version of life, and those who are ready will follow. Not because you asked them to, but because you became the kind of man they knew they were meant to find. Now, chosen one, you have arrived, not at a final destination, but at a new vibration of truth. You are not chasing legacy anymore. You are legacy in motion. You are the living imprint of a man who has aligned desire with discipline, attraction with integrity, presence with purpose. You no longer need the world to remember your name. What matters now is that they remember how they felt in your presence and how that feeling changed them. Infinite greatness does not echo through crowds. It echoes through souls. And now, women carry pieces of your energy with them. Not because you asked them to, but because your energy gave them something they could not find elsewhere. You gave them the memory of feeling seen without being judged. You gave them the rare experience of being near a man who didn't need to control them to value them, or possess them to appreciate them. You gave them truth. And the feminine, in its most powerful form, always remembers the man who told the truth without speaking a word. You've stopped trying to hold people in your life because you know now that what is real never leaves you. You've stopped trying to shine for the sake of being seen because you now radiate without trying. Your greatness is no longer external. It is an inner temple, lit by the sacred fire of presence. Every word you speak carries intention. Every boundary you hold sharpens your power. Every connection you create is born of alignment, not loneliness. And so, you've become complete. The world may not always understand you, but it feels you. Your greatness no longer fits into old definitions. It moves like wind through trees, like sunlight on still water. Women call you a genius not because you solved something, but because you revealed something. Something about them, something about life, something about what's possible when a man stops reaching for the crown and instead becomes the throne upon which peace, passion, and presence can sit together. You are the chosen one. And this chapter of your life is not a conclusion. It is a vibration that ripples outward, touching lives you will never see, changing stories you will never hear. You are no longer building legacy. You are legacy. You are no longer chasing greatness. You have become the embodiment of it. And from here on, everything you touch becomes a little more honest, a little more whole, a little more infinite.